So what is it about that look? What is it about the photogravure? How do you describe the feeling that it communicates to you or that you want to communicate with it?
Well, one of the ways in which it's better for me than trying to achieve that effect with photographic papers is that I can create, it's very important to me that the mood be a certain way, so that when you see it, you respond not to the literalness of it so much, but to the mood that is set up. And the trouble with that was that in trying to create the mood, I was sacrificing a lot of the information because the paper couldn't do both. And with engraving, see, one of the things that was important to me was that I wanted, when you picked up an image, I wanted it to look like the image was in the paper, not sitting on it.
Yeah.
That was critical to me. And of course, when you, I don't know why, but it just was really important to me. So when you have an engraving, it is in the paper.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's ground in there. And with engraving now, you can do both. You can get, I can, anyway I feel, but I'm able to achieve creating an atmospheric print, and at the same time, if you look carefully, you can see every little detail.
Yeah.
And that's what's, I couldn't do that anymore with the papers that were available commercially in gelatin silver. I was sacrificing too much for the effect, for the overall effect, for the mood. And this way I feel like I can do both. You know, for those that are picky and want to see what kind of a ring that person was wearing, you can see it. But because of the way that the process is, it's the nature of the process, it's also moody. It has that mood that I'm looking for.
It's a very 19th century sort of mood, yeah.
Totally.
But what is it about the past that speaks to you in this way, do you think?
What is it specifically about the 19th century? I don't really know. I don't know. I feel like my feeling about so much photography is that it was, because it was born in the 19th century, but that it was born full grown. That in a sense we haven't gone any further with photography. I don't see how a portrait got any better than Julia Margaret Cameron. So I think that some of the things that at least in my experiences, I feel like there's their techniques, a lot of their techniques that they've bequeathed us, I want to hold on to. And then maybe in my subject matter, in the more psychological aspects of it, or in the more, then that's a different thing. What I consider should be a photograph is different than in the 19th century, but I don't see why to throw out the baby with the bathwater. If they made photographs really beautifully, I want to know, I want to use that. I want to make photographs that speak about what needs to be spoken about, and that in a sense are psychological, but that also are incredibly beautiful. If they're not, then I don't want to, then you're not going to see it, you know.
So you're concerned with a different process of time. The evolution of photography has tended toward greater and greater instantaneity in the sense of the decisive moment being the finer and finer point of time. You seem to be more concerned with a more contemplative approach to imagery. And that speaks to the 19th century values of the longer exposure, but you don't necessarily have to have that to have that effect.
Right.
What were the photographic artists that most influenced you or that you most admire?
Well, you know, the artists that I most admire in gravure tend to be not photographers, but Odilon Redon, for instance, is my sort of prime person for printmaking. Goya. You know, I feel like I can learn so much from them, and I'm a photographer. You know, I'm not an artist, but I have a means that I can work with to say what I need to say. But they can teach me so much, and you know, it's not a matter of copying them. I mean, I couldn't. That's a given. You know, that's not a possibility. But they use the medium so effectively for impact and for you know, like one of the huge things that has influenced like some of the work that I'm doing right now, and especially the portfolio that came before the one I'm working on now, is Goya's Caprichos. I just find those incredibly beautiful, and you know, and it's that combination, and it's the same thing with Redon, although some people don't agree. He's more controversial, but you're sometimes dealing with some very difficult and painful, frightening, dark, all of that, but yet ultimately what you're handing to the other person to see, the expression that you have created is beautiful. And that's what's, to me, if I can't make that last step, I don't want to make just disturbing pictures.
Right.
I want to make pictures that maybe there's disturbing content, but there's some sort of redemptive thing at the end.
So you're taking a more universalist approach, whereas someone, say, like Louis Hine, would document the terrors and troubles of the world, whereas you incorporate the darkness, but you also incorporate the light. That's what you're trying to do, in essence, make it a more transcendent experience.
Yeah, exactly. For me personally, you know, I mean, I think that a lot of very straightforward documentary work, like Louis Hine, for instance, has had a huge positive impact in the world. I mean, there is no denying that. It's not, I am not, that is not my task somehow.
Well, you're not a journalist, whereas he, in effect, was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm not. I was for a while.
Yeah.
But then I kept veering off to the weird. You know, I couldn't stay focused on just the document. Show people a picture of people at the something fair. Somehow I'd find the guy who's like got a weird expression. So I'd fall off the cliff. And so, I mean, I wasn't meant to dwell there, obviously.
Yeah, that's where photography becomes poetry, photographic poetry. The photo poet departs from the role of the photojournalist, in essence.